So we're right. I know, right? I don't even need the microphone for those of you who know me. We're going to get ready to show the film, partly because we're running a little bit behind. We all know those lawyers can talk a while. So we're going to show the film, and I introduce you, Rebecca Rosser.
Okay, thanks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the Assistant Director of the American Indian Studies Center on campus, Mescalero Apache from the state of New Mexico, and it's a great privilege for me to introduce the film Hearing Radmilla and to welcome you all here tonight. This film provides insight to the lived experiences of Radmilla Cody, a biracial woman, but reflects the experiences of many multi-race, multi-ethnic people. Hearing Radmilla also encourages all of us to work toward a deeper understanding of ourselves so that we might serve as better ambassadors of race, ethnicity, and culture in the complicated world that we live in. I want to mention that this event tonight specifically was co-sponsored by the Center for the Study of Women and the Women's Studies Department. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Shauna Goman, Professor in the Women's Studies Department and our Associate Director.
Hello, good evening. I'm Shauna Goman. I'm Tonawanda Seneca from Upstate New York. I just wanted to have a few words and just to create the transition between the panel we just heard for a second and the film Hearing Radmilla, which is a wonderful collaborative project between Angela Webb, who is the director, and Radmilla Cody. As you will see from this film, and then when we have our Q&A, and I hope you all can stay for the Q&A after, because Radmilla is going to treat us to a live song, and she's really something to see in person, to hear in person. That this collaborative project, I think, speaks very much to the intersectionalities. And we just had a great historical panel and legal panel. But what Radmilla talks about is the lived, embodied experience and what the lived body of somebody who recognizes both sides of herself and how that manifests itself in certain policy structures, etc. But also how it speaks to the consciousness of Native nations and individual peoples as well. So I would like to, this contemporary experience of Radmilla Cody, I think, speaks to domestic violence, sexual assault, and speaks to many of the issues that are caused by not addressing race and sovereignty in the way that it works together. So with that, I'm just going to play the film, and then we'll call up Radmilla and Angela and I, and we'll have a conversation with the audience as well. So thank you.
I noticed the people, especially Navajo people, they don't really listen to our political leaders. They're just, sometimes they just close off their ears. I don't know what happens, but you can just look out into the crowd and see the facial expressions and reactions. And but then when they say Miss Navajo, then everybody, they just turn really silent and they all listen and they all want to hear what you have to say.
I never thought that 50 years I would still be identified as Miss Navajo of 1953. I really didn't think that I would be sitting here talking to you, being interviewed. I'm always being interviewed so many times that I like to think I made a difference to people.
Miss Navajo. She is someone that represents change in woman, who's one of the goddesses.
The Miss Navajo pageant really reveals self-identity, appreciation, knowing that our culture is just the most beautiful, walking in beauty. So unheralded Cavachon is what we call it.
Different cultures have different definitions of beauty. And for Navajo, when we talk about walking in beauty, that means for that young woman, she has to be very patient, she has to be very understanding, she has to have a kind heart, she has to be able to understand what respect means, what dignity means.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a good round of applause. There it is! The new Miss Navajo Nation.
And that is the feeling that our people get. That's why they appreciate this Navajo pageant and Miss Navajo.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it as I walked up there and got crowned as the new Miss Navajo Nation. And it took me a while even after that to realize that it wasn't a dream.
Radmilla had to keep telling people how to pronounce her name. It's not a name that is many of the young women have, or many of the Navajo people. It was different. And she was different. But she already had that ability that you would want in somebody who can
Being Miss Navajo Nation is a very prestigious title. And I felt that I brought that off as shame and felt really bad for what I did.
But she was Miss Navajo. She was Radmilla Cody. You understand what I mean? She was that perfect person that was imperfect.
I was raised out in Grand Falls area by my grandmother, Cody. We lived way out in the middle of nowhere practically. I mean, this is the Navajo Reservation. We didn't have electricity or running water, so I grew up very simple, learning the basic survival skills and lifestyle of the Navajo people.
Brought her back and she said I reared her myself. I didn't understand.
There are traditional white man adoration שתיאת אומרת אוכלי אחת שנעבוד עשה חוסר כסף.
My mother was young. She had me at the age of 18. And so when you have a child at the age of 18, many times you're not ready to become a mother. And that was the case with my mom. She wasn't ready to settle down and raise a child. So my grandmother stepped in and took on that responsibility.
We call her Chocolate Mama. Chocolate Mama. Everybody calls her Chocolate Mama.
Since when?
Ever since she was small. God, we never had a black in the family. Little skins,
My uncles and some of my aunts were not too fond of seeing half black and half Navajo child around. And I mean, at the time, mind you, it was very uncommon to even see a child, a biracial child, and especially one who came from the black descent. You know what I'm saying? With the black and mixed with the Navajo. And I remember times when my uncles would say things to make me feel, and to make me feel belittled.
And one time I came back. I was hungry, I was pissed off, tired. When I seen him, I said, what the hell is that, There's a baby there. Same color as me, man. Let me tell you this, man. I said, tell you the truth. I said, what's this fucking nigga doing here? Yeah, that's what I said. You seen Detroit? You seen Berkeley, California? What's happening here, man?
Hello there, my Radmilla Cody.
The Biracial what they do not buy of Canada, of course, they come out
It was my chore in the morning time and in the evening time to chase the sheep out and chase them back in. And prior to doing so, I would always stand and give them a performance. I mean, I grew up idolizing Whitney Houston, so I would sing her songs to the sheep and just stand on top of the sheep corral and just sing whatever. As long as I was up there performing, it didn't matter what I was performing.
Make it
when they went to the boarding school, that is where they were told that we could not speak our Navajo language. I, for a matter of fact, my mouth was washed out with soap, and I had to clean the restroom with a toothbrush just because I taught my own language. And so that is the reason why some of our people that grew up during my time decided that they will not teach their children the language because they feel that their children will go through the same punishment.
I went to Luke boarding school off and on from my kindergarten years all the way to my sophomore in high school. But it was the tail end of that era of when you couldn't speak your language.
Today, educators encourage knowing and learning more than one language because you're able to have, two different thinking processes. However, back in the 80s, it was something considered, as remedial to have the ability to speak two languages.
I have like 22 kids in my classroom presently. I have one out of that can talk kind of like fluently, not too much, but just a little to get by. And then I have another one that can understand it, but he can't speak it.
Even if it was just, the slip of the tongue, we would say, something in Navajo. If the dorm parent heard us say something in Navajo, immediately we were disciplined for it. So we would go into the restroom and she would stick soap in her mouth. And for the most part, that didn't stop us from speaking, the language. But it was at the boarding school that I saw Miss Navajo for the first time. I remember looking at her and just thinking the world over and thinking, wow, this is the queen of the Navajo Nation. Wow. As a kid, you look up and you see this, woman who's standing in front of you, the way she was dressed, she dressed in traditional attire, and how she spoke, and it was just the way she carried herself. It made me feel proud to be Navajo, and I vowed to myself that day forth that I would participate in anything. I would run for this Navajo Nation.
She told me one time, she was looking at a magazine like this, Miss Navajo on there. Hey, uncle, he said, I don't be that. Yeah. Hey, dream on, chocolate mama.
Grandma used to have a shack right here. Millie was about 30's age when she was playing with matches. She didn't admit to this now. She was 18 when she turned 18. So Grandma, I'm the one that burned down your shack. Your Grandma, she lost like wool. Grandma was all getting after her. She would go, you're the one that burned my shack. No, she's right there.
It was right after she graduated. She said, Mom, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. She just decided it's time to go, and she did. She left. And that surprised me because I thought that would be too soon. She doesn't know what she's getting into. That's what I thought, the world out there.
It was a whole new world. I remember thinking Phoenix was the biggest city in the world. And it was.
First met her. She had been off for maybe a few months, so she was fresh out of reservation. So the city life for Millie was brand spanking new. It was like the Amish teenagers coming to the city to get a taste of it, and whether they like it or not, that was Millie. She just wasn't going back. I had to get her acclimated to the city life because coming from where she was from, and coming into the city,
was very interesting. I mean, at the time, coming off the reservation, living in a city like that, you're exposed to a lot. And I think that's, what killed the cat. My curiosity led me to a lot of bad decisions in my life.
Do you want to talk about the relationship with your ex-boyfriend? Yeah, that's well.
When I first met him, I just knew out the gate that he wasn't right. He's a slow down. And it was just something about his energy that I wasn't getting.
He told me that he was into selling vehicles and that he was a car salesman. So I didn't question it because also that was justified when he later on started taking me to car auctions, and I would see how he would purchase these vehicles and turn around and sell them. And so I never questioned his profession at all.
She was taken aback by he sharpened her, and that's what he's supposed to do, sharpen her. Because I understand, what she saw in him, but I could see what she didn't see.
It started off with a push. I remember that. It started off with a push, and I remember feeling shocked behind that, and he begged and pleaded with me to forgive him and promised he'd never do it again. And so I took him back, and he was cool for the remainder of the year. But every so often I would get the verbal. He would say that just let me think here. He would say things like, I care about you, and if your family cared about you, then they wouldn't be treating you this way. Everything was always a bad person except for him. So it eventually escalated from the push to the verbal abuse to the physical. Maybe a year into our relationship. Maybe a year, like the following year into our second year together.
I know my people. Call it G. And they're not doing a crowd around you. They're not separating you from these other beauties over here,
What does that mean? Nigger. Basically, black nigger. So it's synonymous? I mean, to me, I would look at it as just black. But when you think about it, growing up and being taunted with these type of words, and kids running around and saying these things to me. Jini Babu, Jini Kopaba, I don't think there's any nice way of saying black person in Navajo. Jini is just the way of saying it. So, at least to my understanding, since that's how I always heard it.
With Millie, it was that she wanted to do something, she was going to do it. She was one of those ladies that just had a lot of pride, and that was what I think got her in there. She wanted to show these people that she can do it.
Radmilla Cody is here, and both Christy and I have a little experience with the Miss America pageant, just a little bit. And we have our short interview, our competition, and we can go all that stuff. That's what I'm talking about. And Radmilla, your pageant, the Navajo Nation pageant, deals with all the different elements of the culture. What are some of the more unusual competitions?
First, you have to be knowledge of the Navajo language as well as the culture, and they have the traditional day where you have to speak all Navajo.
They have to be able to understand how they conduct themselves in the Navajo way. They also have to be able to speak in English and be able to convey that Navajo philosophy. They serve as the ambassador.
See, I told you, start washing. Okay. These are actually the last statement you cannot see the nation, this never change of quality. As in all here, as in the station.
Shaya Ayutishapan and ACD Hinata, Peter McDonald Sr. Pasisina, Aya D. Nihisanek, Banana.
They also have the butchering day, the day where you have to make fried bread and make foods that are, very traditional among our people. And
so what do you do in the butchering competition?
Well,
butchering is something that you have to do, and you should know when you have any kind of a traditional Navajo ceremony. And it's also done for, birthday parties. It's something we do, Most people say, okay, we've got to have a cake. Well, with Navajo, it's like, we've got to have a cake and, the sheep.
Actually, nowadays, we have a background. It involves preparation and so forth. You're going to be just having all your tools and your utensils.
I was very nervous. I think we all were. We're all very nervous. That was the ultimate, it's competition as far as where our skills were really going to be tested.
Who taught her to do all that stuff so quickly, so well?
She said, I don't know, but it's probably me because I do things really fast, quick, And we want the age at the next.
Can we come over here? Hey, what about that fried bread and butcher up the lamb too? And we're going to let you keep doing that because we don't want that job. No, but what a wonderful honor.
I was one of the judges when Radmilla Cody was, when she won. She really spoke well in Navajo, which impressed me because the others were full-blooded Navajo and had difficulties with their language. But she did so well. We all, the judges, said, I think we're going to get her. Like that.
Contestant number 7, Harriet Wilson. Contestant number 4, Grace Copeland. Contestant number 5, Jenna Leah.
It boiled down to myself and this other girl, this other contestant. And when they announced my name, I couldn't believe it. I was like, me? Are you talking to me? It was really good feeling knowing that people looked to me and did that. And then knowing that these people that were there were in support of me, and I couldn't believe it.
Hey, Lieutenant. Radmilla Cody, Swan, okay, the name that you take. Okay, the name is human. I'm very thankful, very thankful right now. To be able to represent such a wonderful nation. It is an honor that I
I knew that I was going to experience controversy behind this because there had not been Miss Navajo who, came from the Black descent.
When these issues came out in the newspaper, I was in tears. I think there were individuals out there who would have loved to have seen me, break down and give up.
Today is actually our first day of our wagon show ride. We're going to start from here at it's just a humble trading post, and then we're looking at about a 7 to 8 hour horseback ride up to Summit, and we're going to prepare ourselves to head into Winter Rock.
My grandmother already warned me. She cautioned me and said, know that there are going to be people who are not going to be accepting, of this. And so I already knew what I was getting myself into. But now that I was Miss Navajo and I had fulfilled a dream, a childhood dream, I was ready to take on whatever challenges were placed before me.
Reaching out and making that difference because I know that, look, if you get to know me for who I am as a person, I'm not so bad.
Sisna Jinjiko Betasha, Biteket Nisho Betasha, Shitse Hojo Betasha, hey, Neo Betasha, Sanave Bik Hojo Betasha, hey, Neo.
People have these stereotypes of people. It could be stereotypes of people in certain parts of the country, like maybe, down south, everybody with a drawl, or, California, the surfers. In certain areas, they put labels on people, and that's just, human nature. And for Native American people, the stereotypes on us are generally plains people, If you go to Gallup, you'll see a teepee. And you'll see the headdress, which we don't use. We don't. That's not how that's not our traditional homes. That's not what we wear. But that's put across the board to everyone. And so there are certain images of Indian people, and then you have Radmilla, and you look at her and you know she's part Black, and you know that she's part Indian, part Navajo, and a lot of the people, it didn't bother them. They accepted it. But you're always going to have a group of people that are not going to. And as a journalist, I generally find that those people that don't agree or oppose something, and it's generally not for the right reasons, they're the ones that are the most vocal. that's just the nature of some individuals, and Navajo people are no different than anybody else.
I reached out to him. A lady had told me that she met my father once, and I didn't believe her, of course. I thought, okay, you see a black man, you can say, okay, I know her, that's my daughter, whatever. I mean, I'm thinking, no, I'm thinking it wasn't him. But I remember her telling me that she was eating in McDonald's, and her and her family were sitting there, and she was speaking the Navajo language, and he approached her and says, that's the Navajo language you're speaking, isn't it? And she says, yes. And he says, my daughter is this Navajo Nation. And the lady looked at him and said, oh, really? Are those your daughter? And he's like, yes, that's my daughter.
The people in Flagstaff, I think, told me. I said, what was that? He said, I was out down here. I was down here, okay? And some Native American people told me, asked me if I knew her. And then they told me that she had said, you know, there was some people that didn't like it. And there were some people that didn't want her to be this Navajo Nation. But she beat all the Native girls out and everything, you know.
What did you think when you heard that?
I was happy. I was really happy when I heard it. Yeah, I was very happy when I heard it.
Just knowing that he acknowledged me in that sense and took pride in my accomplishment made me feel good. You were allowed to have a boyfriend for the year that you were in Navajo Nation. So that year, my focus was more on being this Navajo than this individual. You know, I had to move to William Walking, so I was away from him. And being away from him helped a lot, you know, because I finally was able to fulfill a childhood dream and use that to give me a sense of direction. So it gave me more time to, you would think, heal. And I think in some ways I did, but my heart still remained with him because I was so in love with him.
Once again, welcome to the Dallas Center for NBA basketball tonight. Would you please rise and honor America for a special speech singing our national anthem in her Indian language. This is former Miss Navajo Nation Radmilla Cody. She also participated in the Winter Olympic Music Festival and Dublin Radmilla Cody.
My
I did not know Radmilla as a young lady, as a young girl. One day I was looking in the Navajo town when it talked about all these young ladies running for the title of this Navajo Nation. And there were a group of girls in the picture. And I was looking at the names, connecting the names, and then there was a Cody. And I looked at the name Radmilla. And so I looked in the pictures, and I saw this girl, African American, and I started wondering about it, because it was from me. And I started, I was born and raised. Next thing I knew, she was this Navajo Nation. So when she was invited to our school, I wanted to introduce myself. And I told her, hey, I'm your uncle. First time I ever seen her. So I'm your uncle from down the road. That's how we got to know each other. And then I told her, I'm going to write you a song. And told her, you better know what's behind these stories. The words, different words. You better know what they mean, because people are going to you say this thing here, really capturing this phrase, spiritual phrase, you know what it means. She should be able to say, sure, that's what it means.
But the thing is, when you get away from hearing the language so much, and that's what happened when I moved down here to Phoenix, I didn't speak it as much, and so I lost a lot of it, and so it made it more difficult for me. Then I had to take it a notch up and started learning the traditional words through the songs that my uncle Herman would compose as we started making music together. I already know. Okay, this is going to be the challenge. I already know my song that's like a major challenge to me, and I already feel and see that this is going to be the one. We are here, we are here, we are here, we are here. Yo, 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 we are here.
Records is the oldest record label specializing in Native American music, and probably one of the oldest independent record labels in existence. And for over 54 years now, we have specialized in the production and distribution of Native American music of all genres: traditional, powwow, peyote, rock, country, all kinds of Native American music. We started with her back in the summer of 2002, and we released her second album at that time. Well, the content, the lyric, is very traditional Navajo. It was how she sang the melodic lines that was different. It was just traditional Navajo singing tends to be a little more guttural, and her singing was, I would say, it was more expressive. So the songs were clearly within the Navajo culture, but she just added her own unique interpretation on the melodic lines.
Today we're having my promotional tour, the first day of my promotional tour here in my community, Luke, Arizona, and I always try to acknowledge my community and let them know that, you know, that they're always going to be priority on my list, because they're the ones who are always there for me, especially when I got proud as a Navajo Nation and supporting me throughout my term as a Navajo and as far as recording artist.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Radmilla Cody. With Miss Radmilla Cody.
He was threatened. He was definitely threatened. And I remember the time when he gave me an ultimatum between my music and our relationship. And I was very afraid to give him my sincere response because of what might happen. But I did it. I told him that, you know, if I have a choice, then I'm going to have to go with my music. And I remember he was not happy at all.
See, that guy is one of those street smart guys. He really was young and hadn't been in a place. So, she went and she was Miss Navajo Nation. And she just didn't have the defense. You know, against that guy. Guy was one of those street guys, one of those hustlers. He knew what to say, what to do, when to do it, and when to say it, you know.
I didn't understand why she didn't just walk away, you know, that's what I always ask her. Once you get out of it, you know, why can't you guys, you know, just split up? And it was always a love him mom kind of thing, you know.
No, she was in love with him. To a certain degree, he didn't know him, even though he was doing wrong by her. But she was in love.
And I swear swear during that time when she called me, I heard it on the answering machine first, and that's when I jumped out of bed and picked up the phone. And she was saying, Mom, you know, he broke my nose. I remember that. That was probably one of the worst times, too, that he really hit her bad.
It got me so fired up. I had to catch myself. I was like, you know what? Just distance yourself, because she's going to go back to him. Because when you're in love, no matter how disrespectful they might be, how abusive they might be, there's still some hope in a person's mind that they'll change and that they care and they didn't mean to do it. And of course, growing up in the situation, I knew what the reality of it was.
I would go and make these public appearances, and I was black and blue. I'd have a black eye, or I'd, have a bruise on my face from him baby 2-3 days before, and I would lie to the people. They would ask, "Are you okay? What happened to your face?" I would tell them I was in a car accident.
She was going through something that a lot of people on the reservation were experiencing, but they weren't Miss Navajo. They didn't have the voice. They didn't have the title. They didn't have that prestige. Maybe some of them didn't even speak Navajo. Maybe some of them didn't have that cultural knowledge. All the experience that she had. She was the role model.
Weapons were involved. I got pistol whipped, before, and had a gun pointed to me. I mean, weapons became a part of the daily use. Convince yourself all the time that it's going to be the last and final time that you go through this. And you just kind of start living in an illusion. You're delusioned, and you're not really thinking right. You're not thinking in a way that you're making sense to yourself. So how are you going to make sense to other people if you're not even making sense to yourself? And it was, I would say what I needed to say and next, move on. I didn't think about it. I didn't worry about it. Because I didn't want to. So I would always put it off and put it, just behind me and continue moving forward.
Radmilla, all right. Thank you all.
I thought she was going to slowly get away from the guy. That's what I thought she was going to do. I didn't want to push it too fast with everything, I missed out on a lot of her life that I wish I had been there. So, if I had, could have had more time with her, I might could have solved what happened.
Eventually, he had you working for him. How did that all start?
It started off with him asking me to do things for him, such as picking people up at the airport and to send money to individuals or to send money to him for his gambling habits. And at one point in time, wrapping bundles of marijuana with him and walking a kilo of cocaine through the airport for him. So it was like a drop-off, pick-up type thing? Correct. And he did try to keep me out of his business, but if worse came to worse, he always resorted to me. And if I didn't do it, then I had to expect having to go through and argue with him, and Lord knows what after that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, if I didn't do it, okay, well, you know, I'll see you later, and we're going to discuss this, and to avoid having to go through all that, I did what he requested me to do. Sometimes I would put up a fight and an argument, but, you know, I ended up doing what he wanted me to do. They questioned me about a couple of things, and I asked them, why are you doing this? And they gave me information as to what I needed to do, and I ended up flying out and went before the grand jury. So I did go before the grand jury, and lying to them, didn't have any legal advisor present or anything. And I remember thinking to myself, this is something that I need to do, is take an attorney up there with me. And I didn't know how to go about all of this when it all surfaced. They put out an indictment for the both of us. It was then I realized that this is serious. And ended up flying out to see him. He was out basically on the run, and so was I, and was with him for about a week. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe, I remember asking me, let's run, and let's do this, let's get away, and let's just do this together. And for a split second I considered it. But I thought back to my family and my grandmother, and how I wouldn't be able to see them or associate myself with them anymore behind this choice if I made that, had I made that choice. And just told them, this is something I couldn't do. So I ended up flying back and got together with friends. They helped me raise the money to retain an attorney, and I was able to go back before the grand jury, and I purged myself, which was very difficult for me because I had to go before them and tell them what I didn't know.
Radmilla was initially charged as a co-conspirator along with a number of these other individuals. There were a variety of drug offenses and money laundering charges, telephone contact, facilitating drug transactions. But we were able to have her released on bail by virtue of the fact she turned herself in. And I indicated to the prosecutors that she wanted to complete her grand jury testimony, fill in some of the missing gaps, and wanted to cooperate with the investigation because she was not involved directly and freely and voluntarily in this criminal enterprise.
My attorney, he advised me to just be honest, and even with him, it was very hard for me to really open up because I didn't know how all this could turn on me and be used against me.
Apparently they found out through some other source, one other witness mentioned something about the fact that there were some drugs carried through Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. And since Ms. Cody had not volunteered that she had done that upset the prosecutors. And I understand that. I understand exactly why he was upset. His perspective was, well, she's covering up for herself, trying to minimize her involvement. And my perspective was, she was not volunteering information about this former boyfriend because the less that she had to say about him, the less fear she would have of retribution by him if he ever had the opportunity to get even with her. Remember, he did not get arrested until this trial was well underway with the other defendants. He was on the loose, they were looking for him, and she was in fear. One of the individuals was charged with murder. The former boyfriend was charged with a couple of different acts of violence, one of which involved allegedly pouring hot oil on a female who had taken some money. There were quite a few acts of violence alleged in the superseding indictment, and my understanding it was presented as evidence at trial.
So I was already discredited from the beginning. So when I came back around the second time, I didn't mention this incident with me taking the kilo of cocaine into the airport. The prosecutor basically was like, you know what, I'm not even going to deal with this. I'm going to, we're going to just give you some time, and that's that. The thing that I was displeased at during this court process was that I felt that he didn't acknowledge the domestic abuse. The typical thinking is, well, if you're in a relationship where you're getting abused, you should just get out. And it's not as easy as that.
It's something that I encounter often in my practice, but not in the context that we have seen with Ms. Cody, where, on the surface, if you were to see her wrapping up the marijuana, you're thinking, well, she's a participant. But then if you see photographs of her with black eyes and bloody noses, and you look at the hospital records where she's just been beaten, and then you look at some of the other victims of domestic violence perpetrated by this individual, then you get a different picture.
Misprision of a felony. That basically means that I knew the activities, the illegal activities that were taking place within me.
It was in the papers every day almost. People having different views and opinion people made of her. I was very annoyed with a lot of people, and I have said a lot of bad things to people that just come out. And I said, I wouldn't say that if I were you, because I know you when.
success. I mean, they're telling you tons of information at once, so you're trying to take all this information in, but at the same time, you're nervous, scared, you don't know. So I was trying to take everything in and roll with it. I was just so overwhelmed at just being here. It was from 9 o'clock to 3 hours that it, and I remember just the overall feeling of the room is so good as far as our ability to hear someone, as far as how to routine meaningful discipline. And instead of having your parents, we have ours. You know, it hit me right then and there. Here at a camp, there are bonfires setting at the end. It's a non-violent camp, and we're freedom of a town. So there's no freedom. And as far as being able to go out, get in a car, drive off, and go to Dairy Queen, or enjoy a Sunday, no. You're here, and everybody has the same rules and regulations to abide by, or receive disciplinary action. It's just a reminder every day. This college from a federal prison, but there's women from all walks of life here, and some are genuine, others are outright mean, fake, scandalous. I don't know. There's a variety of personalities here, but we all have made our mistakes that have landed us here, and those have childhood, past relationships. We have scars here, scars that's what connects us in here. It was hard from the beginning. I remember just not knowing what to do with myself. So I was always on the go. So it was always easier for me to put my problems aside and just focus on music, my performances, and making everybody else happy except for me. I look at it as a blessing, because had this not happened, I believe that I would never give myself a chance or the opportunity to acknowledge who I am, my choices, my decisions, my viewpoints. So instead of looking at this as a crisis in my life, it's just a matter of saying, okay, it's okay that I went through that, but what do I do with it now? How am I going to feel?
This isn't going to work. Orange tea.
So usually what we'll do is make a lot and then just cut it in half so that, we can make sure that it feeds everybody. We're going to just feed the immediate family here tomorrow morning. It's going to be just a traditional food that is requested for. It's 9 o'clock and this is July 13th. And exactly 12 hours from now, Lily will be stepping out. Hopefully I told her, you make sure you kiss Mother Earth when you get out, walk out. Well, I'm sure she probably won't even sleep with me tonight. She's probably just so excited, and we are too. We're looking forward to have her coming home.
I just wanted to get off the premises. I said, let's go, let's get out of here before these people change their mind. I just wanted to get away, just get out of there.
I'm surprised, I think from the start when Radmilla, left us, it was hard. And then to talk about my mom couldn't handle it. I had to cut back her visiting with Millie. Because twice I had to head straight to the medical center, so it was hard.
like a piece of your heart that's not there anymore, and you always want to eat it. But today we're just together as a family and friends just to welcome her back and feel good, which is the main purpose, is to be a family and show her that we're here for her. And just welcome her back again and just hang out.
There's backwards to outside.
But it's been a long road, and this is like, the Indians say, it's been a journey for us. And it's coming to knowing, going into a different, dimension, it seems, we're going forward. We're not going backwards. There's no way I can even going forward. And especially going into my 10 years of writing, this is one of the hardest years. This year has been hard. But I've overcome a lot of obstacles, and I'm glad. With her behind me, without her, I don't think I would have gotten this far.
Okay, now listen, I spoke to Linda this morning and she told me that that there's going to be some anti-Radmilla Cody people there. If the council delegates said, no, I'm not promoting the felon here. Then one of their staff members approached her this morning and told her, yeah, I saw he was on your list of performers. And because she's on there, I'm pulling back and helping this weekend. So we were just saying, there are going to be some people who are going to be out there, and because the Earl called me this morning, he was kind of asking.
Well, then those are people that are voicing their opinion now. They always have an opinion, you know that. And now they're just, because you're married. That's all it is. And all
It's expected. It's expected, I know.
What do you expect? So you gotta go through all these to get there. That's true, all kinds of stuff. And they'll be left behind anyway, You got better things. I mean, you're gonna be something. Oh, yeah. Shoot, I would even panic for you. It's just a little, it's nothing. Anything that matters is kind of feeling like them, not us. So we're going for it. We'll get through it.
Thank you, that means a lot to me.
She's got compassion. I seen her around kids, and the kids come to her like magnet, Yeah, come to her. Cared about the other Indians over there. These kids come to her like this, man. She accepts it. Yeah. I don't know. She just got back. I don't know how the people will accept her. I know. She's going to check your mama. She's going to check your mama.
In a lot of our stories, the people that have handicaps that are different, those are the ones that have brought us through a lot of the adversity. And they're the ones that are always recognized as the holy ones. It's people that have overcome not only what they have to overcome, but they go further and they help other people. They help them along.
We're bringing you back to the Navajo Nation Fair.
always remember when I was made, and I just always visioned this, how I just was, would just be welcome home.
I feel good now.
From the time that I went before them as a contestant for the Navajo Nation pageant, was crowded as their ambassador, and even up until now, and now people have been
run the credits because they're important, but well, thank you all for staying. I know it's getting late. We're going to have a question and answer session now, and I'd like to welcome Radmilla and Angela Webb. So we've talked a lot tonight. Again, my name is Mashana Goman, and I'll just be moderating, and I'm only going to speak briefly for a second because I did want to open something up. We've talked a lot tonight about race and sovereignty in terms of politics or in terms of history or in terms of race or political identity. I think Radmilla shows us that these intersections are even much more complex than that, particularly in terms of gender, the intersectionalities of gender and how violence comes into play with that. And one of the things that I love about this movie, I think in some ways you show us that there's another way, and place also becomes so important in your movie, particularly with with your community, and I was bringing it home to that, right? And that being such an important part of your identity. And I was hoping that you could speak to that just to open it up so that we don't find ourselves just in these two dynamics of talking about legal, political ramifications or the racialized social structures of the United States. Because I think you bring place, and that place becomes the communities and songs that you learn from, and even the language you speak. And I thought, Angela, you did a beautiful job of capturing the landscape within this film, so, and the community in that way. So if you guys both could speak to that, and then I'll open it up to the audience.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. I grew up outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So I grew up with names like Swanee, Chattahoochee, Chattanooga. I grew up with all these names, but it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I visited the Navajo Nation for the first time and really visited a Native community for the first time. And a couple years after my first visit to the Navajo Nation, I met Radmilla. And that was over a decade ago. And little did I know at that point that we'd be here now. And I wanted to say thank you, and I'm really, it's really gratifying to be able to share this with you now.
I'd like to first properly introduce myself to you in Navajo, because that's what we do to establish and relations with those who may be related to me here. She Radmilla Cody and Chia Hadone and Schliniki egg as chitin slon, na hitle bashichin, na kedene dashiche, na hitle dashinala kuta a sanshle. Adot tizisi holia de e sidet na shakoba hensen ko ne nache ko ni yahid or arts ko jipin nache she ben hitko yahut etole but on that she utai dot article yaha. Critical Race Studies, Center for the Study of Women, Women's Studies Department, American Indian Studies, Mishana and Rusty, and I am of the Red Bottom People clan born for the African American. My maternal clans are of the Mexican clan, and my paternal clans are of the African American, and this is how I identify myself as a woman. I come from Loop. It's RLA, Loop, Arizona. On the Navajo Nation, and you saw how where I grew up, and there my grandmother raised me, and I just want to say thank you to the Critical Race Studies, the Center for the Study of Women, and the Women's Studies Department, American Indian Studies, and Mishana and Rusty for making this possible for Angela and I to be here, and I just want to thank all of you as well for being here today. As Navajos, it's very important, I mean, just as I introduced myself to you, family is very important. The foundation of family is very important. The foundation of being connected to your community is very important. And that's why I introduced myself, because I know there are some Navajos here, and just in the Native society, you introduce yourself to establish kinship. And that, because in our society, it's matrilineal, and woohoo! I was kidding. It's matrilineal, and so I carry. So when as I introduced myself to you with my clans, I introduced my mother, who is Navajo, and then I acknowledged those that I'm born for, which is African American, and that would be my late father now. And so that growing up, my grandmother always used to tell me and really stress the importance of knowing my clans, because that also prevents incest with your other relations and your relatives. And so it's just not my clan. There's 7 other clans that are related to the Ashche clan and also to the Nakredene clan. And so so it's very important, because you're not supposed to date 2 of the first 2 clans. You have to acknowledge those clans. Of course, in one of my classes, that was one of the things that I was a little nervous about, because at that point I had already dated a black man. So I was like, wait a minute, Am I not supposed to be dating black men too? But because they were my clan, I'm born for them. And the Navajo instructor, the professor at the time, said, "Oh, no, that's okay, Radmilla. Unless you know what their tribe is, then then that's how you would." I was like, okay. But so growing up with the teaching of, in our culture, we believe, you don't just think for yourself. It's never just about you. It's about the extension of who you are. And, even if I had gotten into the situation, the unfortunate circumstances that I had gotten into, I still had to understand that, if I wanted to help people, that I had to help myself first. And so everything that I do, everything that I have done, despite my downfall, has always been about others. And so, my grandmother is a fine example of that too. As she is someone who looked past, the color line and looked past the fact that I was a biracial, baby, granddaughter. And, I think one of the things that, when she shares her stories with me, she tells me, I followed your mother to Tuba City Hospital and stood in the doorway and made sure that you weren't going anywhere. But of course, not knowing that a little black baby was going to come out. So just really understanding that it's, whatever you do in your life, that you have to do it, not thinking just for yourself. Even as I go to school, and I'm graduating this semester, thank God, finally, it's not going to be just about me. Everything that we do has to be about how we give back to your family, to your extended family, to your extended relatives, to the earth, to the universe, to all life forms, because we're all interconnected. So.
Thank you. I was going to do introductions, but it got so late. I was working here. Well, why don't I open it up to the floor, perhaps, so that way people have a chance to talk and ask questions. I'm sure you'll have. Radmilla is always very gracious in her question and answering. So. This one here.
First of all, it was wonderful to see your movie or your film.
Thank you.
It was very heart-wrenching, and I congratulate you. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're a very courageous young lady. And I was wanting to know where we could get some of your music. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
But I heard it before. I have heard your music before, and I was wondering who had that beautiful voice.
Oh.
So I'm very honored to meet you, and thank you for that. It's great.
I have some with me right here. Never leave home without it.
And the video is not available yet. We're hoping to have it available this year. But I have started a list, so I'm taking email addresses, and you can keep in touch with us at the website or our Facebook page that just got going. And then we will let you know when it is available there.
Great.
Okay? You're welcome.
Excellent.
So I'm part of other questions. I'm going to be terribly audacious following that question and say, will you just sing a little tiny bit for us?
I actually am going to close with the song. So yeah, I'll close with the song.
I'd just like to know, biracial human being, what constitutes identity? How do you tap into your African identity as well as your Navajo? I noticed that you embrace totally, well, from the video, that you embrace your Navajo identity. Do you find that sometimes that overshadows your African identity, or how do you blend them together?
Well, it's blended together now. And I say that it's always been blended together, actually, since.
How does it exhibit itself? Of course, you're blended, but how do you exhibit it? From watching the video, the film, sorry, I see a lot of the Navajo experience, and I see that that's what demonstrate. I saw some of it in the blues songs
Mhm.
singing, or sometimes I hear it in your intonation. And I'm just wondering, are there other ways that it's exhibited other than?
Well, it's actually always been there, even since I was a little girl, because I was I would hang out with my mom and her black friends in Flagstaff, and so there were things that, you know, of course, I think later on in my life, I realized, you know, I guess when you're around it, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, you know, but because I spent more time on the nation, that it was easier for me to identify more, you know, with the Navajo. But when I did go into the black communities, you know, I understood that it was a part of who I was and who I am, and I think that as I got older, I began to realize it even more and recognize it, in the sense that, you know, my dad's side of the family, I started spending more time with them during the summer, and just, you know, having black friends. I mean, like Adina, and, you know, just being around the culture, you know, and being, you know, understanding that, you know, that was a part of who I am. But there was always that conflict, though, you know, when being both, you know, whether I was in the Navajo community or in the black community. So having to try to please the blacks when I was in the black community, and trying to please the Navajos when I was in the, you know, Navajo community. So it caused a serious identity crisis for me. And as a result of that, you know, I finally just woke up one day and looked at myself in the mirror and said, you know what, I am who I am. And if people don't accept me for who I am, then oh well. You know, and you know, just spending more time with my family on my dad's side. And I just recently got to meet my aunt at my father's funeral, my aunts that I never had the opportunity to meet. So, you know, I think it's not, as far as exemplifying that and going out, this is as good as it's going to get, really, you know, because it's not, I think when I went to Kenya, Africa, when I went there, I have to say that it really, I felt for the first time, it bridged both of my worlds. Because now I'm in the motherland, and now I'm where there's more similarities than differences, okay? They're people of the land, they're people who herd sheep, the Maasai. Ooh, I like the Maasai. So I was, you know, seeing these warriors, you know, they're herding sheep and visiting the communities where they had cornfields. And when I asked them where the bathroom was, they said over there, and pointed to an outhouse, and I could identify with that, you know, and the singing and the songs and their dances and their traditions. And for myself, that's the trueness of who we are as blacks. And yes, we're here in the United States, and we've created our culture here, you know, and I understand that culture, and I identify with that culture. But again, to some degree, because of the division in that culture in the U.S., it was for me, I felt like it was brought together in a more solid way when I went to Africa, because then I was like, wow, these people live just like we do, you know, back home on the nation. And so it was, I think for myself, that was something I really, really appreciated about them. And you know, so it's kind of hard to say, you know, for me, it's really, I feel like I exemplify it in who I am, and being able to walk these two worlds finally in a balanced and harmonized way.
Well, thank you. Here, this question here. Yep, go ahead.
I'm curious, do you encourage, and in which ways might you encourage the integration of African Americans especially into the Navajo Nation and the community? in my past, never saw much of it, but I'm wondering, has it changed radically? And I'm in that line, your plans for activism along with your group for domestic violence, what is coming up, what are the big plans, and how is your grandmother?
We'll start with my grandma first. Okay. My grandma's 96. 96. She's 96 years old, and as far as the integration between the two cultures, I no longer introduce myself, by using the word Jini anymore, or Naketla Jini. I don't use that word anymore. I sat down with the medicine man and asked him, what name can we come up that's more positive for those that I'm born for? Because it hurts. It's very painful, and if I feel that pain, a lot of our children who, and there's a lot now, there are a lot more biracial, multiracial children, and you know, and for me, and they still deal with it. They still deal with a lot of racist comments from, you know, the Navajo people. Not all, but for those who do talk that way. But you know, so I asked him, what word can we come up? What name what term can we come up for? You know, for those that I'm born for? And he said, in our ceremonies, we use the word Naketla. And so I sat there and I said, Naketla, 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 because I was filling out the word. I was like, Naketla, Naketla. And as I kept saying it, I could just feel this empowerment from it. And knowing that it's used in such a reverent manner within our ceremonies, in such a sacred way. You know, and so when I went to this community on our nation, Shiprock, New Mexico, when I went there to do a performance for the community there, I introduced the new name, and everyone applauded with acceptance, and I explained why. I explained why I felt that, you know, why we need to change, you know, the word from Jini to Naketla. And so this little girl, there were some little girls who were part Navajo and part black that were there, and I went back a month later, and one of the educators did research on the name. Na means across, those who have come across. Hith, dark, calmness, those who have overcome and persevered and we've come to like. I means oneness. So those who have come across that are dark and calm and we've come to like and have persevered and are in oneness. And so I went back a month later, and there's all these little kids who were standing up, and they were introducing themselves dressed up in their traditional attire. And this little girl was one of them. And she stood up there and she said her first clan and said, "Na hisse bushes chin." And I just broke out in tears. And I said, you know what? This is the beginning. This is where it starts with our little ones. And so that's a part of, you know, me going out and sharing with our people and reminding our people that we're people of harmony. We're not people who, you know, why, just as even as you saw in there, why would another minority turn around and treat another minority, you know, in a disrespectful manner when we both have gone through similar situations, you know, that where oppression and depression and suppression is concerned. And so, you know, I think that's something that, and it still exists. Yes, it's still out there. There's still people who have something to say and people who want to be mean, but it's about educating our young ones and talking to our young ones and also talking to our people and reminding our people that this is not our way as natives. This is not our way as, you know, as Navajos. And I just want to also say that I feel the Navajo Nation has set a fine example, because if for the vast majority of the Navajo people were in support of me. There was a small percentage of those individuals who had something, you know, negative to say when I got crowned as Miss Navajo. But the Navajo Nation set a fine example by selecting me as their Miss Navajo Nation because they looked past the color line and saw that I met the requirements as, you know, as a contestant. So.
Well, I'm going to actually kind of sum up, and that's one reason why I really wanted you to come and visit and to open up this plenary discussion. And I'm sure that as we go through the other plenary panels, that we'll have these discussions around race and sovereignty. But I feel the collaborative politics that you bring, Radmilla, and the collaborative heart, really, that you bring, beyond even politics of looking at people as human beings, is really important. We have to kind of close up because there's a shuttle coming at 9:30. So with that, if you want to close with the song, that would be wonderful.
Your water.
Oh, I was going to get her a Fiji water bottle because she didn't have her drum.
I don't have my drum.
We'll find you a fancy one.
There you go. See, we can use the microphone.
There you go.
Okay. This is the Dawn Song, and it's a song that is sung in the morning time as we, you know, as to the east lies new beginnings, and in that direction is where we believe as Navajos we come into this world as a child, as an infant. And to the south, in that direction lies the east is the thought process. To the south is our young adulthood, and in that direction lies our planning process. And to the west lies life. And in that direction is where some of us are as adults, as our adulthood. And in the north direction is where my grandmother is, and that's old age. And in that direction lies hope. And then you return back to the east as a child again. So this song is about acknowledging our holy people and requesting of them their blessings for the day as we apply our thoughts to our plans, to our life, with hope that all goes well in a beautiful way, before us, behind us, below us, above us, around us, and through the words that we share with those we come in contact with. He ane yanga hianga ahia, he ane yanga hianga ahia, hianga ahianga hianga ahia hey neyo hayot kat bi hoshon gonasha insaha kes bi hoshon gonasha gonasha hey neyo nidok ish be hoshon gonasha nahat be hoshon gonasha hey neyo he ane ahianga ahia, he ane ahianga ahia, hianga ahia hey neo nehotsui be hoshon gonasha, ina be hoshon gonasha hey neo Chahat yet be hoshon gonasha, si hasin be hoshon gonasha hey neo hey ane ahianga ahia, hey ane ahianga ahia, hianga ahia hey neo Koshila je hoshon gonasha, koshikesh de hoshon gonasha hey neo koshiya ge hoshon gonasha, koshika de hoshon gonasha hey neo he ane ahianga ahia, he ane ahianga ahia, hianga ahia hey neo koshina de hoshon gonasha,
Konshisa de husho gonasha, hey hey neo sanage big e husho gonasha, sanage big e husho gonasha, hey hey neo hey ane ya hiya. Hey ane ya hiya hey neo.
Yeah. We have a gift for you to end. Thank you for your healing words and for starting us off in a very productive conversation that will carry out throughout the next 2 days. Thank you very much.